Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Menasa Talks, where we're trying to formulate how Pakistan-based offshore companies can better work in the U.S. environment. And today, I'm very happy to have a very interesting guest, someone who's migrated back from Pakistan, from the U.S. to Pakistan, Mr. Faisal Jeddy. Faisal, welcome to the show, and tell us a little more about you.
Thank you, Faruk. Always good to hear your podcast, and I'm glad to be a guest here. Just a quick background on myself. Born and raised in Lahore. Did my chartered accountancy from here, and then in 2001 moved to California, Bay Area, which is San Francisco, and just fell in love with the place. Beautiful area, as you know. The weather is great. Economy is very tech focused. I became a partner with BDO, which is one of the larger accounting firms, and in that role, obviously focused a lot on working with tech companies in San Francisco Bay Area. So after working and living in San Francisco for about 23 years, we finally moved back to Lahore last year. Funny thing is, every time I meet somebody in Pakistan, their first question is, everybody else is moving out. Why would you come back? That's a fair question. I think the more interesting question is, why did I even go out, right? Because many people leave Pakistan for all kinds of reasons, some for more money, some for better life, better education, family, whatnot. Mine was a little bit different in the sense that, alhamdulillah, life in Lahore when I was here back in the day was very, very comfortable. I was chartered accountant, I had a good job at PwC. The main reason for us to move out was I always felt that, as Pakistanis, especially Pakistanis who are doing well in Pakistan, studied well, scored great marks, did everything, how do we compare with the rest of the world? How do we compare when we pitch ourselves against world-class talent from around the world? And that is where, when we moved to California and then became a partner with one of the larger firms, that helped answer some of those things. And as you know, Faruk, when we look at the Pakistani diaspora in Bay Area as well as larger California and larger US, we find some very, very smart, very accomplished people. And unfortunately, people don't hear a lot about that, right? People get very focused on, XYZ company has an Indian CEO and XYZ company has an Indian CEO. They don't realize how many very smart, very successful Pakistanis who did all their education from Pakistan, went to States and then became really successful. So I think that was my primary motivation to go to US back in the day. The reason we came back, number one, that was always in the plan, honestly. Ever since we went to US, we always had a plan to be back for the final innings anyway. And there is something to be said about the lifestyle of Pakistan, and assuming someone has some amount of money to live comfortably, the life here is so comfortable compared to anything else. The family, the friends, all that is absolutely here, but the cost of living in Pakistan compared to US is a fraction. And,
fair enough.
And you can build that life. But what I also realized, and that's probably one of the more interesting parts of this move, is that the perception of Pakistan, especially for those who don't know Pakistan, is largely formulated by bad news. Right, because bad news makes it the news, right? The bomb blast here, right there, and war here. So they don't realize the potential. And what I always knew, and what I much more deeply understand ever since I'm back, the talent pool we have and the cost arbitrage Pakistan has because of the lower cost of living is unbeatable from any of the peer countries we can compare to. Unbeatable.
Sure.
And that, I think, is a largely unexplored part of the Pakistan story in the US. We are doing, every year we do way better than previous year in terms of IT exports, and we'll talk more about it. But I think the potential for Pakistan to be a world-class delivery center for a lot of very value-add stuff in IT is just immense, absolutely immense, and we are just at the sort of early stages of that.
No, that's phenomenal, Faisal. And as that's what we do here at Menasa. You and I, the beauty of this is we're both people now. I didn't have the ability to move back, but I felt compelled to find ways to give and connect into this system. But your story is, I hope, inspires some people to understand and think better of the situation and what Pakistan can do and can't do. To caveat things fairly, I think, Faisal, we are probably people of means and have the ability to be more flexible and live more comfortably in that environment. But nonetheless, it's a journey, right? And you went on your journey and, you had to give up some things to gain some things. But that moves me to the next question. So, and for the audience, Faisal, what we're always trying to do is help them understand how better to penetrate and work in the U.S. environment. You have the unique experience of having worked here, but now you're working for one of the premier offshore providers in Pakistan. Tell me a little bit about that, the journey that they've taken to get to where they've got to.
Sure, and Pakistan has a number of very, very good firms that are very deeply focused on IT, exposed primarily to U.S. market. The company I'm with, they have a very interesting story. They were formed many years ago, about 46 years ago, and the first 20 years, all they did was work in Pakistan, right? And if you think back in 80s and 90s, what was IT? I mean, big banks had mainframe computers maybe and some government projects, but very few companies, very few private enterprise were focused on implementing any kind of computers or digitization. 1997 is when this company acquired another company, a very small company in US, and that's how their journey began in finding clients in US and doing the work in Pakistan. The company went public in Pakistan in 2014 at only $18 million revenue. This is all public knowledge. Whatever is public, I can share. And last year we closed, and I'm just talking about the Pakistan side of it. Last year we closed and publicly announced our financial results for 2024. We were at $240 million. So from 18 million to 240 million in 10 years. That's phenomenal, right? And when we went public, we were the third largest IT company in Pakistan. Now, without doubt, we are the biggest one. And the number two is probably just a fraction of our size. But that brings us to a really interesting question, which I get asked often, is why are there not more companies like this in Pakistan? Right? What is stopping others from crossing that $30-40 million barrier or the ceiling to get to $100-200 million revenue companies? And I think there are a number of factors that go into this kind of a growth. And these are, this is not a critique on any other firm, but I just, when I look at what our company has done, some things kind of stand out. Number one, from day one, this company was giving stock options and shares to their employees. Not a lot of Pakistani companies even think about doing it. And that meant that when this company went public in 2014, and the share price did well because they were doing well, they created 30 to 40 US dollar millionaires in Pakistan.
Amazing.
That's phenomenal, right? I mean, I'm not talking rupee millionaires. Rupee millionaires are very easy, as you can imagine, but US dollar millionaires are much more difficult. So just to make sure that key employees become part of your growth and they are invested in the company and they feel that as the company does well, they'll do well, that was a huge factor in how this company sort of grew. And one of the reasons is the Saeed Babar Ali, who's a very well-known, obviously, person from Pakistan, founded Lums and Packages and many other businesses. He was the founder of this firm, and his mindset always was to make sure that your key employees stay invested in the company. Number two, and this is again a very key thing, some of the other large IT companies in Pakistan are led by brilliant people, right? And you know them, I know them, smart people. This company their CEO brought in a person they hired out of college and brought him in as a CEO when the founder CEO was 65 years old, and he gave the charge to a 35-year-old, smartest guy you know, and he took the company in 2013 and took it to this level, which we are seeing right now. So that says something about the ability of founders to bring in talent from outside the family, I must say, because there is zero family member in this company. This is another thing which is very unique about Pakistani culture, which is from one founder, they just want their kids and their grandkids to be part of the business leadership. So to understand how far a founder can take a company and then bring somebody who can take it to the next level of growth, that's super important. And I don't see that happening in any other company because the founders think they are the smartest people in the room, and that creates that kind of a bottleneck where smart people then tend to break away and start their own thing, and that's why no one company grows bigger. The third thing, so those two are about the culture of the company. The third thing which is important, and I've talked to our CEO a few times about it, is the ability to take calculated risks. When everybody is doing one thing, it's easy to just follow the herd, but to think strategically and take some risks, when everybody is kind of, questioning your decision making about it, that sometimes sets apart the successful companies from just any other company. For example, in our case, we went into Middle East 7 to 8 years ago. We went into KSA, and when I say Middle East, I mean Dubai and some of the GCC. KSA exploded in growth recently. We were there already for the last 3 to 4 years. Many IT companies are now trying to get into KSA and now trying to get into Middle East. It's much more difficult now with all the housekeeping. We were there earlier. We had the advantage. We are doing multi-million businesses in both Dubai region as well as KSA region. And if you look at our financials, Middle East combined KSA and Dubai now contribute very healthy numbers to our top line. Sure, the margins are not as impressive as the US market, but they are very decent, and the growth is just phenomenal. So to be able to execute on plans, and I'm not talking about taking reckless risks around these things, but smart risks, understand the opportunity, understand what will come, and staying one step ahead of competition in some of these risk taking. I think that is very important for any company. So when I talk to founders here, and I meet a fair bit of founders here, they're all asking me the same thing. What did you guys do differently? What can I do now? And then they will enter some of those markets, but they'll be entering it 3 to 7 years later, right? So that for the leader of a company, the CEO or the top leadership, the key attribute has to be strategic thinking on keeping an eye on the pulse. This is probably one of the other things you may want to talk about later in this program, but what is coming down the pike now, right? We are all talking about AI, Gen AI, a lot of these tools. How will they impact the headcount we have? I'll just give you a simple example. We all want to increase our revenue. Everybody does that, right? At our company, because we are so large in Pakistan, we always keep an eye on our headcount as well, because that's a very visible number for a number of reasons. We actually think that there is unless we plan it properly, we might continue to increase our revenue at a very nice pace with either no increase in FTEs or a reduction in FTEs because of all the things that are coming up.
Yep.
Now, how do we manage that is something for us to put our thinking hats on and work very smartly around this. But that's a given. What we are seeing in the U.S. market, the news around some of the largest companies in the world, reducing their workforce is not an accident. It's not a blip. It's a trend. And we all have to be very, very aware of these. We have to adopt these technologies. We cannot just shut our eyes to these technologies and say we are not going to use it because that will mean we have to let go of people. Well, you have to plan, because if you don't use those technologies, guess what? Your competition is, and they'll outbid you in all projects.
No doubt. Well, I think you're. It's good because you're reading my mind and you're jumping ahead. So I was going to kind of focus in on that and ask you, how is that? So let's drill into that a little more. And what do you think, like for you as an organization, being as cutting edge as you are, as large as you are, what are you guys thinking in terms of that? How are you going to attack that? Is there any thoughts around, is it the upskilling of people and making sure that you can bring top level talent still at a cost arbitrage? Maybe there's less talent, but it's higher value. Or what are the thoughts around that? I'm curious.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? We have to stay ahead. And the reason I say that is because as an IT advisory company, our clients look at us to tell them what they should be doing, right?
Sure.
So we are the ones who need to be ahead of our clients in terms of what technologies, what solutions are available, how can be implemented in your situation. So very interestingly, about 8-9 months ago, maybe a year ago, when I would talk to people about AI and Gen AI and all these LLMs and all these amazing tools that were already available, I think it kind of exploded in the public domain when ChatGPT became public and everybody started playing with it and like, wow, it can write my essay for me, it can do all these amazing things, and we are seeing more and more use cases every day. Still, about 8-9 months ago, when I would have those conversations, I could sense two types of people. One who are all in, who are like, this is the future. We have to take advantage, and this is an amazing opportunity. And then those people who are like, nah, it's just a passing fad. I still remember somebody said the only people making money on AI are the consultants. The companies are not seeing any real profits or cost reduction or anything. So they were, I think some people probably got burned a few times in the passing, what is the most trendiest technology out there kind of a thing. But it was very obvious to me, and I think to a lot of people, that this whole AI, Gen AI wave is something that will continue for at least 6, 7, 8 years, and then it will transform into something else. And the easiest analogy I would say is when companies started going on the cloud. If you remember 7, 8 years ago, when Microsoft started making this 180-degree switch from an on-prem solution to a cloud solution, Adobe made that switch, Oracle, SAP, everybody did. And what that meant is a lot of companies started getting onto the cloud. And as a technology company, we did a lot of projects around that, helping our clients, still do, but I think you will agree that the wave, the large amounts of money, the large projects around taking a company and moving them into cloud is already done, right? Almost all companies already done. Their ERPs on the cloud, their Microsoft 365, it's all, all the productivity tools are largely done on the cloud to the extent they can be. So now I think the next wave is the adoption of this AI and Gen AI and all these tools, which will, I think, and I've been very vocal about it, both when I talk to media here as well as whenever I talk to some of the industry folks, is the way we are doing our job today is very different than how we'll be doing it even 2 years from now. We will be adopting a lot of these tools, whether we do it by being ahead of the curve or whether we do it just because people force us to do it. I think it is going to happen. So smart people need to be very aware and be very well trained on some of these things. So to answer your question, we are now an AI first company. We are making sure that AI is not just a buzzword and there's not a small group of people doing AI in the company, but everybody in every department, whether it's accounting or HR or sales or client work or billable people, everybody is first trained and then using AI in everything they do every single day. That's, we have to make it a core of our company, and the reason is twofold. One is the only authentic way for us to convince a client that they should adopt AI into their processes is to be able to tell them that we are doing it internally, and this is how our metrics, our KPIs have improved, and that's why we think you should also take advantage. Because if you present an awesome proposal to a client and they turn around and say, "Oh, this looks pretty cool, so you guys must have done it yourself," and if we say, "No, we have not," that just changes the tone of the conversation. So we want to adopt AI both internally and externally, and we just want to make it a second part of our nature in everything we do. So as part of that evolution that is happening, every team has to look at their headcount, every team has to look at how many people they need. It is very possible that for something that we previously had 20, 25 people, we now need only 5 to 8, right? Very possible. I'm not saying it will happen tomorrow, I'm just saying that's a likely direction it will take. So I think number one is the top leadership that all these companies have to train themselves in AI. They can't just be leaders and just pretend that they know AI. They have to take themselves into really solid courses on AI to be able to lead properly and evaluate what are all the use cases inside their organization where they can implement some of these tools. So we are doing it very aggressively. I think anybody who's not doing it, anybody who's kind of still expecting that this thing will just pass, I think they're going to be in a bit of a trouble down the road.
Interesting. No, that's a good observation and good insights from you, Faisal, in terms of where the company is going. This is something very important that, again, I reiterate to our audience that, finding the way and then making sure that you're upskilling and building up that capability within yourself. I think, and that leads to my next question, which is, I'm switching a little gears here because we're getting closer to time, but Faisal, it's something very pertinent that you have experience with. So as a Menasa, as the founder of Menasa and the clients I work with, I see all variants of clientele coming through to me, people who want to work with me and stuff. And one of the biggest things I'd like you to share from your perspective, because you were in the United States for many years, you did work with a lot of companies, and as a partner, even in an audit firm, there's still a level of business development that was on you, right? And I want you to share a little bit, especially with our Pakistan-based folks, what building that pipeline and getting things closed. Just give us a snapshot of what you think is needed for any tech company to close business in the US?
That's a very, very good question, and that's a question I get asked by a lot of younger IT companies in Pakistan. There are tons of them. Honestly, where I am, there are lots of very, very smart people who have their own companies who are doing $5, $10, $15 million revenue already, but they are trying to figure out how to get to 25 and 30 and 50, right? And that's a very interesting challenge, because the thing is, it's one thing to build a team of really smart people here, and Pakistan has a lot of talent, very smart people coming out of colleges, well trained in different skill sets. It's an entirely different challenge to create that sales pipeline, especially if you want to sell primarily in US. And the reason why people want to sell in US is because it's a very mature market. Margins are the best in the US projects, and you are dealing with the world-class talent over there, right? So people want to sell in the US because they feel that that's where they need to be. Now, for a 200-person firm or even a 1,000-person firm in Lahore to be able to have the kind of inroads into US market is very tough. I mean, they call me, when I meet with them, they tell me, "Hey, you must know a lot of CIOs in US. Can you introduce us?" And I'm like, is that your plan? Because honestly, if you are running a company, you should have a better plan than just opportunistic leads from somebody who has a day job elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with the founder of a very, very successful IT company in Pakistan. And he told me, we have 3 to 4 dedicated full-time salespeople in US, but I personally go 3-4 times a year to US, and I sell more myself than those 4 people because I just with the client, I tell them what we can do, and they want to sign. Um, that tells something else, right? I mean, the challenge for a Pakistani company to try to hire a dedicated salesperson in US is number one. If you want somebody who really understands your industry, has good contacts, has a good Rolodex, they're probably working for somebody else, right? They're probably working for a larger company, and for you to entice them to leave that position, come join that person wants to make a certain number, and if your entire revenue is less than what his quota was, guess what? It's not going to work, right? So that's a challenge, and how you will get a super successful salesperson to join your organization, considering the total revenue number your company has versus what their quotas and what the companies they're dealing with. So I think that's a challenge, and I think that's where there is immense value in engaging with a BD firm. And Menasa, I think, is doing a fabulous job here to engage a BD firm who can help open doors for you. Ultimate selling has to be done by the professionals, but opening the doors, getting the foot in the door, getting a chance to present your skill set to the person who is actually looking to hire or bring somebody on board, that is super critical. And that's where a lot of younger companies are struggling, because their entire BD is based on a few contacts they have, and those contacts could be from any reason, right? I will want to point out that there are organizations, and there are 2 or 3 organizations off the top of my head who are able to connect the service providers, the business owners in Pakistan with very influential people in other countries, in US and Europe. I mean, Open does a great job, Pakistan does a great job. So there are a number of organizations, and it makes sense for folks who are very interested in exports, IT exports, to engage with these and take advantage of these connections. Because as I said in the front part of this conversation, there are some very successful Pakistanis who are in very reputed companies, big companies in the US, who are looking to help. People who can do good work. And my other point is, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, that in your situation you may never be able to move back to Pakistan, which is fair enough. A lot of people can't do it because obviously their kids are where their kids are, and as we become older, we want to stay closer to our kids and hopefully grandkids. Having said that, if these Pakistanis who are in good positions in US, have their own companies or are high-level executives, if they can use their influence, if they can use their capabilities to give projects to companies in Pakistan or open their own back offices in Pakistan, that is huge. I mean, the whole IT economy of India was built on these kind of support done by overseas Indians to Indian companies, and Pakistanis, I think, should, they do a great job, but I think they can do a lot better in supporting Pakistani entrepreneurs, because these are companies in Pakistan doing great work. And this is one way for us to be able to help and grow the economy of the country that started us all, right? I mean, I grew up here, I don't know about you, but I grew up here. I feel it's important for me to be able to give back to the country where I got all my education from.
No, that's a very fair, and thank you very much for those insights, Faisal. Very important. And as we speak to the audience here, really the premise, and I think Faisal has brought up some very, very solid points. I'll go back to being a little strategic about the approach of what you're doing, thinking a little longer term about what you want to achieve, and understanding fully the realities that the cash flow you have and the size of business you have is going to heavily be impacted if you don't do things correctly. But sometimes, as you said, taking the right risks with the right situation. And last but not least is levering the resources like Open, Pak Launch, and people who want to support this effort, because we see the quantum of business in this country, and even with the advent of AI, we still see the cost arbitrage and the talent pool. So So, Faisal, thank you very much. This is really helpful, and coming from the platform and the environment you're coming from, this is very heartening and helpful, and we hope to continue encouraging our offshore compatriots in Pakistan to continue pushing and doing what they need to do to keep growing. So thanks a lot for coming on the show, Faisal. I appreciate your time and your interest.
Thank you for inviting. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And to our audience, once again, thank you for following us here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Again, this premise and proposition is to help companies and Pakistan continue to thrive. God bless. Allah Hafiz.